Hey guys, it's Otto Winkler here, and in this video I'd like to talk about back pain and knee pain, mainly because this is something which I come across the most often, talking to my clients and trying to find out what's really the main cause of their pains really. So focusing on knees and the lower back especially, but this can apply to other areas like shoulders, ankles and so on, but just because it's so common and I have so much more experience with those issues, I'd like to talk about some sort of problems and solutions to them that most people encounter. So number one reason why we could have a joint pain could be old injury, for example, car accident or falling on the knee, hurting the back many years ago, and second, which is quite common, will be just imbalance, maybe losing a strength of the core muscles over the years. If somebody got a, let's say, a desk job and they don't really use their spine in challenging way, so the core muscles become very weak. If you just sit, let's say, there's not that much, we're just relaxing our core, so we actually getting weaker, and that can cause the back issues, for example, or just the support of the knee, just lack of balance. So imbalance can be also one of the reasons, or something like overuse. So somebody who is training a lot and not allowing their tendons, their ligaments, or even joints to recover. So that could be one of those that, overuse, or even sort of inflammations that can cause these issues. That could be combination of lifestyle, which is pretty much, inflammatory, let's say, so causing pain to the body. So, as one of my clients calls it, mysterious pains. So everything is okay, and suddenly you have these sort of strange pains coming out of nowhere. And from what I know, it might be even stress, it might be lack of sleep, it might be factors like that can actually irritate the body. So let's talk about some solutions. So what I observed is that, if you go to specialists, they specialize in one thing and they neglect everything else. So talking to people was really great help for me, and I learned a great deal just by listening to people and observing what they say. So what I found out was, some specialists want to just put, let's say, knee pain. Some of them want to inject cortisol or back, but it doesn't really, it's just masking problem. It's not really solving anything. It's just letting your body know that there's no problem. So it's like having a dashboard on your car with engine warning, and you just put a black tape and tape it over and say, there's no problem anymore. So that's not a good solution just to mask the problem. It could be a part of the recovery that the person can work on their core muscles and make them stronger. So that's when it could work, but as a number one and the only solution, I don't think so that's sufficient. And then, let's say, putting a knee to the brace, well, not considering that there might be tight muscles, for example. So, just even if the knee gets support and the inflammation lowers, there's still very tight muscle that is constantly pulling on the tendon. So, I would have a better strategy, and I found that quite effective. It depends on person, from, let's say, week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. I say around a month can make a huge difference, 2 months even more, but some people have very strong muscles and very strong imbalances, and they are not as consistent with the frequency of their self-help, let's say. So, it can take months as well until it gets better. But everybody got better that I worked with. That was very interesting. So what I found out as a strategy would be, first of all, releasing the tension. So if it is lower back tension, it could be glutes in tension, it could be thighs, it could be calves or ankles, any of these areas. That can apply to shoulder, forearm, anywhere. Sometimes I have overuse tendonitis from pulling lifting so much weight and lifting so often per week, maybe my body is not recovering that well, and every so often I feel, if I'm pushing my training, I feel either wrist or elbow. So I think massaging it out is really important. So that can be done, let's say, with a foam roller. It could be done with physio balls. It could be done yourself, just massage the muscles out. If it's the leg, you can do it there as well, or go for a sports massage. So release techniques are there, really just to practice and do it. It doesn't have to be too much time, but I'll provide you with some videos on how to do that. So I will try to make this video more comprehensive, since I almost think that this is one of my biggest specialty, is that sort of pain release. And biggest part of it is that I used to have all of them, most of them: back issues, bad posture, sore knees, sore elbows, sore shoulders, sore feet and ankles. It's just from overuse, to be honest with you. So I learned on myself. I was the guinea pig, and then I came across hundreds of people, especially when I was working one-on-one with clients. I could really apply what I learned on myself and from the books, and experimented with them, on them, thanks, and find out what works. So it was just following the books and then opening the intuition. So next thing after the release techniques would be stretching, and not just stretching on its own, but there's one very interesting method called PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, or one of the techniques is called post-isometric relaxation technique. It's a bit late, so it took me a while to say this, but these techniques, actually, funny enough, I learned it in Russia after being on my holidays with my wife. We've been at the airport for 20 hours, 3 flights, long overlays, so my back was in bits. So next day I went for the massages there somewhere that the family member knew, and he showed me these stretches while I was on his massage, and I never seen it here with my personal training course. So I found it very interesting, and I started to apply it, and trust me, it works. So basically, you find a stretch. When the stretch is full, when you feel like there's not much more stretch you can do, then you contract against. Let's say if it's me as a trainer, I stretch hamstring, you push against me for 5 seconds, then you relax, I push tiny bit more for like 10 seconds, and then repeat push, and you can do it 3, 4, 5 times. So it's like 5 seconds contraction, 10, 15 seconds relaxation, could be longer. So that is actually a really good technique to improve the flexibility. And the third method would be to combine strengthening exercises and balance exercises. So with the knees or with the hips, if I put a person on a Bosu ball, that's the ball that is rounded at the bottom and is flat on the top. So usually those people who had previous injuries or they had these aches and pains, arthritis, and they were trying to avoid stepping on the leg correctly, and they were always trying to avoid that leg. Their stabilizers, especially the hip abductors, that's the outer edge of the hip, they becoming very, very weak, and that ball can very quickly reflect to me to see if the person has a great stabilizers or not. So most of the cases, if I have someone who has aches and pains, trust me, their stabilizers are very, very poor, and that's possibly one of the main problems. And that's why I'm talking about the knees and the lower back, because many times it's quite related to those hip stabilizers, glutes, especially glute medius and minimus. So working on those, especially the lateral movements from the standing strength with the tube, let's say resistance bound, anything that pushes the legs out of the center will strengthen those. So involving balance, which will help the brain's connection to the muscles, and basically every time you step, there's something like some sort of shock absorber, so it can impact how well is stable ankle, also your knee, and also your hip, and also your lower back, obviously. So it's quite kind of related. And then strengthening exercises, so full range motion try to get, and there could be a lot of techniques where you just squat down and hold something and just improve the mobility by going deep into the squat. That could be a great way of practicing the full range. Then there could be something similar to something like a leg curl or leg extension, individual legs. So most people have dominant leg, or if there's soreness in one knee, could be some tight spot in the muscle which is blocking the efficiency of the muscle and its strength. So doing simple things like curl one-legged, especially with a weaker leg first, and matching the same repetitions and same weight to the strong leg, you kind of awakening those muscle fibers that were sort of faulty. So if you imagine you have a knot in a muscle, there will be something like a glue that sort of stiffens up and catch together those muscle fibers. And what brain does, it underpowers the whole area to protect it. That's usually the most sensitive spot, and it's more likely that will be the future injury in that spot. So somehow body try to protect you from pulling that muscle by underpowering the whole region, and that is actually, I think, one of the biggest problems that will cause that whole area to have inflammation in tendons, because somehow if the muscles are not absorbing it well, it somehow goes into your joint, into your tendons and your ligaments. And of course over time it might be months, years of building into it, and then when they inflame, it's a lot of pain. I can tell you, been there, done that. So having, active lifestyle is one thing, but being able to control how much you work out and at what level, how you structure your training is very important. And also if you're putting enough of maintenance time for your joints, ligaments, tendons, muscles to get yourself recovered properly. So I'll bring more videos on release techniques, on strengthening techniques, on these balancing exercises, and yeah, let's make it as a comprehensive one proper block. So see you in next videos.